This time I'll call the Blount County Budget Workshop meeting to order and ask for roll call, please.
Kirby. Lewis. Moon. Mitchell.
Here.
Samples. You have a quorum.
Pat, would you please read the emergency announcement?
In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
Okay, thank you. This time I'll ask if anyone has any comments on items on the agenda. Okay, seeing none. Okay, go ahead.
Members of the committee, just to the book I've handed you, since our system is a little on the archaic side, it doesn't lend itself for pagination. So to organize each of these workshops, what we've done is literally just organized based on the agenda for the evening. So for example, the first page you have is your agenda. The second page is a summary of any changes that have transpired since the last meeting, which would have been 2 weeks ago. And we've referenced the tab number where that applies in your notebook. And it is in sequential order as to how you will hear the different departments and office holders tonight. And we will do that each meeting just because it's too difficult to try to paginate these things and reorganize it otherwise. So tonight you'll have items behind tab A through K, and they are in order, so you should literally just be able to flip to them. And then there are a couple comments just kind of to kick this off tonight is I think I created something a little misleading for everyone. You saw a recurrence under the personal services portion of our budget, and the notation on the right-hand side under Social Security, it said 2% increase. That was a note that we made early on that unfortunately got reprinted every time we generated one of these notebooks, and that shouldn't have been. It was just merely a note on our part internally that our employees took a 2% reduction in their net pay because of Social Security. The cost to us as an employer did not change. Now, some of those will change in here because of the increases that might have been proposed as a result of the salary schedules that were provided to us by CTAS. So I apologize for that if it's been confusing. Okay, that's all I have right now, Mayor.
Anybody have any questions? What we'll do on the presentations is, as we come to them, if you all would like the representative to come down and answer any questions. If you don't, there's no need for them to come to the podium, I don't think. So we'll start with the Industrial Development Board, which is tab A. No change, not showing any increases. Does anyone have any questions? And if you do, I'll ask Brian to come to the podium. If not, I won't. Okay. Okay, our next department is 911. If tab B, yeah.
If I could interject here, this is something I should have said earlier as well. The way this is organized, just as a reminder, you will have estimated expenses as of the end of this fiscal year, what we project to spend for each of these appropriations by June 30 of this year. And then the departments, we ask them to submit a status quo budget, And then under state law, we can't bind someone to a status quo budget because elected office holders have the right under state law to petition this body for additional funding. So everyone had the same opportunity to submit for an increase in their appropriation. So if they did ask for an additional appropriation behind tab B under 911, you'll see a supplemental or an additional operating request for 2 items. And then the supporting documentation is behind there as well, so you'll see firsthand what they asked for. So in this case, the status quo appropriation would have been $302,133. They have requested consideration for an additional $26,474. That should be the second page behind tab B. Okay.
Some $11,000 of that increase is monies that's being placed in our budget to pay for a notification system that the county and both cities have agreed to go in together to pay for. We're not making that request. They just decided rather than write 3 separate checks to the company, to the vendor, they just wanted to put that in our budget and let us write the check. Now, you know, that's fine, but just let it be known.
It's explained in here,
Okay.
Judge.
Well, good, because I don't have what you're looking at.
Okay.
Okay?
Obviously.
But I never have had what you're
I know you haven't.
so, you know, I mean, we've known that over the years. So, but we are requesting a 5% increase on the base, on our base from before. As I think I've sent each of you a letter, laid out why and all that, and I've got one supplemental document, if you don't mind me handing it to you, to show the decrease in our landline rates. The reasons set out of here, and that show you what's occurred to us over the last 4 years.
We got that too, don't we?
We lost 25% of our landline rates from some 925,000 we were getting back in fiscal year 06, 07. We're down to 688,000 simply because of the reasons set out there. So people were, you know, get rid of the landline. Well, they get rid of the landlines, and the younger generation, they're going to, you know, the landlines are going to be kind of like rotary phones, I think, too, pretty soon. Anyway, that's another document on what y'all have. So I'd like to know what y'all have. Good. Yes, sir. Pardon me? They keep, as I pointed out in there, we get a dollar-for-dollar match on the landline, but the dollar that you're charged for your cell phone, the state keeps, depending on your population, they keep 75%. We get a quarter on the dollar. So it just, as you can see, the more landlines we lose, the more cell phones we lose money.
Is there any kind of movement to try to get a little more of that percentage out of that, the cell phones, Judge? I mean,
There is. Now, to be fair about it, the state has increased a little set amount of funding that they've given us slightly over the years, but the state's pretty much stockpiling or rat holing that money simply to try to have enough funds on hand to create, and they are creating what's called the next generation 911, and it's primarily it's very technical. Jeff could probably answer it better than you, but basically they're trying to get it a little bit better because they know cell phones are proliferating, and right now they're trying to make it to where you call on a cell phone, they'll know a lot closer to where you are than what they know now. Is that pretty much it, Jeff?
It's basically replacing the analog system with the wireless system statewide, so whole infrastructure. There is actually a bill in the House right now too where somebody's proposing to increase from 25% to 85% to the districts, the wireless revenues. I I don't think it has a real good chance of passing, but I think it does represent that they are looking at the funding challenges 911's having. And I think there is a movement to try and remedy that, but when that will take place or a decision made, it's really hard to say.
I think the bill is not going to go anywhere, but I think they were trying to tell the state, hey, you need to think about giving these districts more lump sum monies because of what's happened to them. I think they were just trying to like put a shot across their bow to see what. So that's where we're at. And like I said, the two cities, as we understand it, have agreed, or in principle, that subject to their bodies, I think that they'll be agreeable to an increase of the 5%. So.
You've been averaging about a 7% decrease every year
Every year.
since 2007, 2008.
It's been pretty steady. It's just one of those areas where technology is actually hurting us, and like the judge said, it's not an even swap for wireless like it is landline.
Is it about a 1-to-1 swap though, from what we're losing on landlines versus what we're gaining on cell?
What do you mean?
Numbers.
Numbers?
Unit for unit, you mean? Yeah.
We don't really know the number of wireless lines that they build. That all goes through the state. On the landlines, they come directly to us and they give us each month what each CLEC or AT&T actually bills, how many business lines and residential lines. You know, the assumption can only be that it is wireless that's driving most of it, but we don't actually, you know, see how much the wireless lines are going down to compare with the drop for landlines, really.
Okay.
And the internet is counted as wireless. And folks that are switching like from AT&T like to internet-based services, they're counted as wireless rather than wired lines. So there's, again, that's not helping us any. So that's where we're at.
Jeff, on this Everbridge system, this is money well spent, is it not?
I think it's very well
Absolutely.
spent.
I think so too.
And back to the wireless landline, you know, the old system we had gotten so archaic because it could not address the wireless carriers and the people that had wireless phones for their residential phones. And so now they can opt into this system, as you know, if we make a really good advertising splash on it and people opt in, then it will be tremendous compared to what we're able to do now just with wirelines.
I agree.
And it's going to help the departments too, as far as notification, paging. It's going to really be a big impact, I think.
Any other questions? Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Tab C. This is the county commissions. We have you answering all these questions? Come here. Oh. Does anybody have any questions?
Change was 1196. It actually dropped though. And
Yeah.
how did it drop? Everything I'm looking at right now looks like it.
Unemployment and Medicare cost.
Okay. still on. Are you seeing the change?
Point it out to Dana,
Yeah, I know what's on page 2. I was looking at the,
the reduction.
If you look at 210 and 212.
210. Oh, I
210,
see, okay.
Yeah, 206.
Yeah, very slight. But it went down. Okay.
Social Security went down, that went down because of the part-time person, I believe.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions? Well, I would say, Roy, that we don't have any questions for you, but if you would like to come up and speak, that would be fine. All right. Judge kind of made me gun shy here. I didn't want to. We ready to move on? Tab D. It's Highway Department.
Judge, don't scare me, Mr. Mayor. I think, I was talking a while ago, I think this is 18 or 19 times I've stood before this budget committee, so if you're gonna get tough skin, you might as well have it by now, so. But I wanted to go over with you a few things that we did and promised y'all last year. Before we begin with our justification of this year's budget request, we'd kind of like to remind you of the goals that we set for the Highway Department last year. Number one was to significantly increase the amount of roads paved in the county. I made you that promise last year standing here that we would almost double it. So, to establish and stable and consistent capital replacement plan with replacing several aged highway equipment. Part of that plan came into place last year. We got 2 new backhoes, new mower, boom mower, and looking at, before we end off the year, a new pickup is going to replace some early 90s. So it's working. What we set out to do is working. To complete various road projects that needed further work throughout the county. We're finishing off some of them. We were able to do some of those last year, so a couple of the bridge replacements. And also to complete a capital construction of a county salt bin. Fixing to have some pictures roll through. You'll see that raw salt bin that my employees built this past year. To obtain these goals, I first wanted to make sure the departments were doing everything we could to make the most of the funds we were appropriated. Beginning with the 2012-13 budget, the Highway Department began phase 1 of a very aggressive overhaul of our entire department. This reconstruction will continue into next year. By reanalyzing every aspect of the way the department was structured, we were able to set forth a plan to better utilize the abilities and the talents of our staff and reassign job responsibilities of the employees we lost through attrition to the current work pool and did not refill any of those positions previously filled by retirees. We used these funds, as I told you all back last year, to increase our operating supplies and materials, which allowed us to better help accomplish the goals that we set forth. I'm proud to report to you tonight, 1 year later, that we have doubled the amount of paving that we set out to do this past year. We finished off right now, and we're not through yet, with 15.86 miles of roads that we paved. If we don't have a lot of spring problems, storms, that's going to acquire a lot of our material money left, and we will be able to say this year we have more than doubled the paving that we did year before last. Through the adoption of last year's highway budget, and I want to thank you for this, I feel this committee, we got 2 new members, but you all get credit too for it, as well as the county commission expressed their continued concern and commitment to the citizens of our county by helping the highway department. You have before you tonight a highway department budget which reflects what I feel meets the needs to allow me to continue securing with time the solidarity of our county road system. We've talked about that on a resurfacing program. You know, it's going to be a long ways out, but any increase, anything we can do more of than we did the last year is helping us to meet that goal. As we go through it, if you want to, the significant changes you're going to see are the salary taxes increase. This constitutes a total of $68,635. It's already in the budget. There'll be no new monies asked for to accomplish this. Does not count for the state mandated increase. You'll see an increase in revenues, and that is $268,750. That's in state aid. Any road that we do under state aid, 75% of it comes from the state, 25% match. So we're going to do a little more this year, and that's the increase for the revenue. 58 employees in the 13-14 budget. There's no vacant positions. You will find no vacant positions in this year's budget. In fact, we're down 1 more from what we were last year. And we have moved some employees around. Got different cost centers we'll be looking at this year. In the lines of this new budget, in accordance with the new responsibilities, part of the reconstruction process. If you would like, first page in there is revenues. You'll see the increase in revenues is $575,000. We were able to do state aid. Some of these pictures you'll see floating through is the new asphalt is Old Niles Ferry. That was a state aid project. 25% of that cost, which I believe was a little over $400,000, was all the county picked up. So we were able to add, we're going to do 3 more state aid roads next year. And this is the increase in the revenues. Everything basically is the same revenue as last year's, except for the state aid projects that we're doing. Cost Center 6-1, that's office, that's administrative part of it. A couple of changes in there is we've moved, the only thing we've done is, other than the increase in pay, which is $1,000 per employee. We moved $7,000 into custodial supplies. We felt that's where it needed to be since this stuff comes in too, and that's where we clean our office and stuff of that nature with it. So we moved those over into where we in the office are responsible and keep up with those. And we've got my lovely trustees commissions, which we're always going to have until I don't know what, but they've increased a little from last year. So that is what's happening in 6-1. Over in 6-2, that is the field work. That's where we do our paving, bridges, so forth like that. Salary increases in the first 105 through 212. Get down into other contracted services. I've got a project I've got to do in a subdivision off of Alcoa Highway. I want to contract that. I am not comfortable with my trucks. The liability is too great having my trucks and my people on Alcoa Highway, going back and forth crossing that highway, so I will contract this one out. I can get it done for about $3 more per ton in place. So that to me is more than justification to warrant any possible liability that could happen on that project. We have moved chemicals, which this is from the auditor. This was being purchased out of a 499, 399 cost center, other supplies and materials. Auditors requested that we identify what these others are, so we have put the chemicals that we use on the shoulders, the herbicides to spray around our guardrails, the retardant that we use in the spring to slow the growth of the grass to keep us from having to mow it so quick. That is to me is a very, very good cost for a chemical. We spray our major roads in the mid-April. We don't have to put a bush hog on it till late July. So that's a tremendous saving in fuel and man hours. And then the state aid projects that we're going to do, you'll get a report for those in July. We got to turn those in, but we'll be doing Morganton Road, 2 miles of Morganton Road, We'll be doing Clover Hill from 411 South to Morganton Road, and we'll be doing Jeffries Hollow from the Sevier County line down to Prospect. Those will be the 3 state aid projects we do this year. Over in 6.3, that's the maintenance of this aged equipment we're trying to replace. 105 to 212, that's fixed items. That's where the pay increase is for the employees in that department. We have increased equipment, machinery, and parts. Hopefully, over the next few years, you'll see a reduction in that. But as old as some of this stuff is, it's getting to the point where we're having to put more money in it than what it's actually worth. So we're having to increase our parts. Garage supplies, that is, again, this is a breakdown from the auditors on what we buy. That was coming out of other supplies. This is your brake fluids. This is your the cleaning fluids that goes into the parts cleanings and stuff of that nature. And let's see, fuel, I think all the fuel stayed the same. We've increased tires a little bit from last year. A new cost center that we put in, this is for the sign shop. They do quite a bit of purchasing, so it's a way that we can keep track of what is purchased through the sign shop. Again, the first 105 through 212 is the employees and their increase. The signs that we're having to do, we have doubled what we put in for last year's signs, but with the mandate coming from the feds, we were able to hold off on a total replacement with the new reflectivity of all the signs, but the compromise was, as they need replacing, then we've got to replace them with that material. So this will justify the cost of any new materials that we're having to buy for the signs that we replace this year. Pretty much in a nutshell, that is what we're looking at this year. That is our budget. Comments, questions, be glad to try to answer any and all.
Road sales actually increased 5,000.
Yeah. Yes. They did, Jerome. And again, it comes from the federal government. They say, luckily we didn't have to do them all, but we will meet the reflectivity of us older people that don't buy glasses that can be seen at night. Our road signs itself, the name signs, are going to have to go from 4 inches to 6 inches.
That never did get thrown out. They're still going to make the
It's
road
still gonna
signs
be,
go
yes.
up in size.
Yes. But again, it's as they need replacement.
Right.
They're not going to force us to do them all at one time. We fought hard, long and hard on that. That was one that the local governments beat Washington.
Yeah.
You're looking at roughly almost $600,000 it cost Blount County to come in and replace everything.
Oh, I remember it was going to be expensive.
Yeah. I guess while we're here too, to let you know what is happening, I've got some more areas I'm going to research, but I applied to the Federal Highway Administration through TDOT on the flood damage that I talked to you about here a couple of months ago. Those 2 particular roads did not qualify with what Federal Highway Administration has out there. So we're going to have to be looking at something. I'm going to get some information from Craig. I've got some very serious questions to ask our county attorney as to how we need to approach this. But I'll keep you up as we get into this a little deeper into it and let you know what we got out there and what we can expect to look at to do, okay?
Any questions?
Yeah, that's That's through some of the stuff. Again, a lot of it's through the auditors, what the auditors wanted, Steve.
Yeah.
And then, like I say, the new cost center on the signs. It just makes things a little easier for us, per se, to keep up with it. We've got each department, one person is responsible for anything that they order. We know then what's there. We don't have to over-order, don't have too much on hand. We get it ordered when you need it, so it just makes things a little easier and a little cleaner. Not
But you
only-
did say that we don't have to go out and change all the signs,
No,
just,
no, we do not. We
just
do not.
as they're needed to be done.
As they
Do
are.
they give you a time limit on
No,
that?
no, did not. As they need replacement, then that's when we put them up with this new material. Yes, it should. And again, the 25,000 will be, I would say we're looking at least 55, 60% probably of replacements. That's where our lovely little children with, they've got Dave for a name, Dave Lane. It's one of the most replaced signs we got. I reckon every kid in the county named Dave has got that sign. So that, the majority of our sign cost is through replacement from where they have been removed from the pole.
So 189 has approximately 57,000. The wages, say $1,000 per employee.
Which one is that, Jerome?
Is that under one? Well, it's a number of them. But your overall request is gonna be for $1,000 per employee.
Yes,
though.
yes, it is.
You're 58 full-time.
Yes, sir.
You count yourself? and-
No, that's not counting me. As I said before, this is not including the state mandate.
Right.
Okay. And again, this department has always followed suit on what the recommendation has been from the budget committee, from the full commission. We've always followed suit on what has come from this body.
Are we going, Mayor,
Yeah.
how do you intend to move these on to the budget? We're gonna hear everything and come back?
Hear
Before
everything,
we
and then,
move
yeah,
on
we'll
one at a
hear
time?
this and then come back together as a budget committee. Randy, this may be your question on this, where it says 2% increase in Social Security. Why is it that it's actually, it's about 10,000 less, but yet it's saying a 2%?
Forget that note is there. It doesn't pertain to what the number is.
Oh, okay, okay.
That was the initial comment I was making.
Pay attention, Ed.
I apologize again for that one.
I remember that, Ed.
I knew to ask him, Randy. Bill.
Bill, on the state aid,
Yes, sir.
how do we know, or how do we anticipate what that figure's gonna be?
I get it from the state. I get those numbers from the state aid region 1 office. We call them prior to. I think my state aid monies per year is like $235,000 per year. And over the years, it has accumulated. I've not utilized all of it in any particular year. So last year, we only done the one, 2-point-something miles. It was 400 and some odd thousand. And I had roughly about 6 left over from previous years. And this year's acquisition to it, the $230-something thousand to it, gave me enough money to do 2 more roads this year, 2 more lengthy roads that's in dire need of repair.
So we can carry that?
Yes,
that
we can
money
carry it
over?
on, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's same with my bridge money, Mike. I have not been able to use my bridge money on the state level, just on account of the bridges that's left are so big. My share would be so much more, so I'm letting that build up until I can get enough to justify another one-lane bridge.
Okay.
So,
Do you think the state's gonna be of any help? You said the federal government's turned us down on the.
I doubt it, Jerome.
That's
I doubt
right,
it.
yeah.
That's where I'm gonna have to get with Craig and then go over some thoughts I've got on what we're gonna be able to do and how we're gonna be able to proceed with this thing up there. So I will not go forward with anything to keep you all in the dark. I'll keep you up and abreast of everything that happens on those damages, okay?
And Bill made mention of his capital. That's behind tab 11 in Fund 176.
And you all, I'm sorry, tab 11 is in your green book,
Okay.
9B.
And he's requesting 300,000 versus 285 that we have this year. Same revenue source. And I assume just different equipment replacement.
It is. It's gonna be equipment replacement. As I stated, we've done 2 backhoes, a boom bush hog, much needed. The backhoes, a contractor would have got rid of them 10 years ago by the hours that's on them. Average 5,000 hours a contractor gets rid of them. The 2 we got rid of this year, one had 17,000, one had 16,400. They were worn out. And when you're putting good money into something, the value of those pieces of equipment are not worth the money we're putting into them each year. So
What do we do with that equipment, Bill?
right now, we're going through Teresa's office to get rid of them on either an auction or Gov's deals. You can't get anything, Mike, on trade-in. I mean, it's just a token dollar.
I was
so-
wondering if we sold it.
Yeah, we do sell them, yeah, we do sell them. We put, this year, I had an old motor grader with a Roanoke bush hog on it that they don't make parts for no more. We fixed it, had stuff built for it over at Dempster's. It's not worth it. You can't buy parts for the grader. I got $4,000 out of it scrap, so that's all it's fit for. No need it sitting over there. So we surplused it, got rid of it, and got a little out of it. But it's gone over this county, I bet you 1,000 times.
Any more questions? Bill, thank you.
Thank you all again. Jerome, welcome to the Budget Committee. You're going to enjoy it. You're probably getting a call from us here shortly. I want to ask all of yous over, and just to show you I'm not blowing smoke on this equipment. I want you to look over what we're having to maintain and the age of it. So you'll be getting an invite to come by, okay? And if you do it around lunchtime, Ed's by. Thank you.
I can testify he's not blowing smoke on the equipment.
Yep. Okay, next we're in Register of Deeds. Tab E. Just be ready.
Okay. Kept thinking they'd take, no questions.
Okay.
What's the decrease in the other contracted services? Was that clerical?
Services.
$33,000.
$399.
Okay, that is where, they moved, like 709, they moved that up to, other contracted services. So those two line items kinda just flip-flop. Right, Randy? That's how y'all,
Just reverse of that. We took,
yes,
what used to be in 399 is now in 709.
Okay, I got it.
You're having an upgrade in your systems this fiscal year, though, that
Yes,
we're
sir.
looking at approving.
yes, sir. And that totally comes out of my EDP fund. That's revenues that can only be spent for, data processing. No additional money has to come out of county
No
funds.
additional headcount or reduction thereof due to automation or system upgrade. You don't see any productivity change
No,
with the
sir.
new software?
No.
Phyllis, is there any technology coming down the pike that you're aware of that would allow us to be even more efficient in the office as opposed to what we're doing in the technology we have now?
Not really. Right now, they have a thing that's called e-filing that may eventually in the years, come to light, and some of the counties are doing that. I don't feel comfortable with it right now. From what I hear, and what that does is all over the U.S., people will just e-file their documents. I would have to designate at least one person and one workstation that would only do the e-filing. And basically what I hear happens on that is they send their documents in. If there's any problems with it or whatever, you have to go through it, send it back to them, they send it back to you, and it's kind of a back and forth thing. And what I feel like is that you're putting yourself at risk on that document, because some of the documents that we're getting in right now, people are trying to prepare them themselves. There's a lot of mistakes, and I just don't feel comfortable with that right now. That might be something down the road that we can do. What that would do would cut out our local attorneys coming in and stuff, because it's going to be outsourced to other companies, California, whatever. And I just feel like that the people here are more aware of our properties, what our laws are, different from California, because you wouldn't believe the documents that we have to send back, because they just don't follow what we have to have, such as map and parcel, who prepared the documents, name and address, the consideration amount, the book and page. There's just, your notary seals, and that's another thing that I worry about is the notary seals, because a lot of these large mortgage companies, and I'm sure you've heard about it, where they have just doing the stamp. They just have somebody using somebody's notary. So I don't feel comfortable with that right now, and I'm not sure that it would save the county any money, that we could cut back. And what we're doing now, and I know in Jackie with archives, she'll be able to kind of tell you what what goes on. We're back scanning. If we have any downtime at all, my employees are back scanning, and they are entering the data in as they go, rather than outsourcing it to another company and them having to actually take my books out of the office or whatever, and then when it comes back, then we would have to index it and certify it. I don't feel comfortable with my books leaving my office. So I feel like we're saving money there, because Jackie can tell you what it's going to cost her if she has to outsource getting books scanned, some of the old books and stuff. So I think we have to look ahead at the way we're going to save the county money instead of the way we're going to cost the county. We can cut back, but have to outsource it and cost us more money in the long run, or do what we're doing now.
Okay, thanks.
That's probably a little more than what you wanted to know.
No, that's what I wanted to hear.
If I could remind the committee, as Phyllis indicated when she came before us with the request for technology enhancements for this year, her fees are running ahead of budget. We're not discussing revenue tonight, but just for full disclosure, we are experiencing a good year, and I would expect a good bit of that to carry over to next year as well when we bring those forecasts back to you.
If I could just reiterate what he said, already right now our revenues is at $600,555.28. Last year at this time in February it was $410. So you can see and that's just revenues for Blount County. We've taken in a total of in receipts $3,850,692.73. So our documents is up. We've already, total instruments this year has been 19,195. So versus 13,000 something last year. So we are busy, and contrary to what some people say, things are looking up. You know, people are buying houses, people selling houses. We have new businesses coming in, and we do good deeds.
A lot of construction going on.
A lot of
out there
construction.
right now. So
A lot of
that's-
construction.
That translates right into your area. That's good news.
And we get excited every time we see one of these deeds come in, one of these large companies or whatever. I think we do a rain dance. You know, it's awesome.
Hopefully, we're going to do a big rain dance here pretty soon, you think?
Yes, yes, and we do. I promise you, we get excited.
So do we.
Any other questions? Thank you, Phyllis.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Tab F, Property Assessor.
You need, I just now caught this, you need to look behind tab 2. We took the wrong one out and moved it up front.
Okay.
Look behind tab 2. Your total expenditures for 52,300 account number, Tim, I hope I gave you the right one, $776,530 behind tab 2. I apologize for this. No matter how prepared we try to be, it's always running up the last minute, it seems like.
Am I looking at the right thing under tab 2?
Tab 2, up at the top of the page, it should say account 52300, and it says Department Office, Property Assessor's Office.
Under my tab 2, I've got a letter from Ken Salazar, Secretary of the Interior.
Don't pass that.
On past that, I got a yellow page.
Keep going.
Okay.
Should be sequential order by account number, 52300.
Okay.
776,530.
Correct. And then the next page you have immediately adjacent to that is the additional request.
Which is included in the 776 or not?
Is not. 776 would in essence be the status quo budget.
Camera system, is that already due and payable?
Sorry.
The request under 52,300, did you get it, you got an extended amount of time for that, didn't you? Was
Well,
that due,
Excuse me.
was it due and payable before this budget?
It was due and payable before this budget, and I got with Randy on that, and we managed to move money in line items to cover the bill due. We have another bill coming in May that we do not have funding for.
So you gotta have it.
Got to have it.
Is it gonna be about that same amount?
It's less. It's 13 to 15,000. It's a reappraisal cost that we have every year. They break down reappraisal costs each year for 4 years, and so it's around 12 to 13,000. And when we go to a 5-year reappraisal, it'll actually reduce that cost per year.
And talk about the additional assessor needs.
Yes, I have tried since my time in the office to maintain an area myself and do my duties as administrator. It's turning out to be very difficult to get to the field and keep up inventory and manage homes and things of that nature, and be able to keep up my office administration. And I'm asking for a deputy assessor, and the other position is a clerical position. I took a clerical position last year when I came into office. We had no mapping department. So I took a clerical position and converted that to a mapping department to recreate a department that had been done away with. So I'm asking for those 2 positions. The bulk of the remainder of the increase comes from just replenishing the line items that were drastically reduced last year.
In your opinion, do you still have a backlog of work?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Do you still have a backlog of work?
No, our mapping department is current. They have, in the 6 months that I've been here, he's been here about 4, and he has gotten everything current in our mapping department and running real smooth. We have caught up all of our review to the point we're comfortable, and we're not really considered behind any longer, and that's just a tribute to how hard the guys have worked.
So did I understand that the clerical position you're talking about, is that for the reappraisal program?
It is in the reappraisal program. That's where it was funded previously, and I've left it in that budget.
Under 599 other charges, what, can you shed some light on that? What, $50,000, but what?
Yes, that is for TMA. They're a personal they audit our personal property records for example, Alcoa Inc. We've had a relationship with them for years where they audit the books for Alcoa for personal property. And we had an issue last year, budget cycle, on some billing problems with them. And that is, I've arranged for them not to bill us for this current cycle. And the money that we had appropriated for them was put back because of a billing issue. And we were able to use that funding to help pay that state bill.
Randy, did I hear you correctly say that these other additional requests are not part of that?
Yeah.
Is that what? Okay. So where's the bottom line number on the additional requests? It's broken down, isn't it?
Well, what he has asked for, is it? The total additional requests are 139,097. That's his regular office and the reappraisal program. Does that sound about right to him?
Yes, sir.
That's 300 and 310
That's
combined.
correct.
That's correct.
Say 139,000?
Yes. You've got, behind the first two pages we were talking about, and then you've got the third page, which is 52,310, the reappraisal program, and then the additional requests there. So, let me read. So for the assessor's office, status quo is 776,530. The additional requests that Tim's outlined are 12,933 for the CAMA system, plus $54,451 on the additional compensation benefit accounts. Then if you go to the reappraisal program, the status quo budget would basically be 266,272, and then the supplemental request would total 32,787 and 38,926. So basically have 4 supplemental requests or additional requests, 2 in each office.
Does the benefit figure include the county match?
Yes.
Which is what percent now?
We've got it all spread out among each individual cost item. It's probably 28% in aggregate.
So that's one new deputy assessor and one clerical position.
Correct.
$10,700 pay increases.
Yep.
If I could add one other item, not on the cost side, but again, on the revenue side, Tim and Gabe were very good to sit down with me and go over all the assessments that they had come up with in preparation for setting at least a tax rate for the proposed budget. And I feel pretty comfortable that what we've given the budget committee in the email that we sent out on Friday, I think we shouldn't have any surprises like we did this past year about overstating collection rates or anything like that. So I appreciate their help on that. I want to make sure that the right hand talks to the left hand and that we're all singing from the same sheet of music, and I feel like we're doing that.
That was on the 96?
96%.
That's correct. We can go over that again here in a minute and talk about that if you want to, but the mayor has to, under state law, the mayor has to provide under the 93 Local Option Act, he has to provide the school superintendent and the director of highways, the highway superintendent, an estimated, what the estimate of a penny will generate under state law. Don't ask me why, because we don't even give any property tax to the highway department. But that's what the law says, so that's why we did it.
Okay, we'll talk about collection rates in a minute.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've given you everything that was asked about. We'll go over that shortly.
Are there plans to go to a 5-year cycle versus 4-year cycle, Tim?
Yes, we've created the 5-year plan and have forwarded to approval from the DPA and the state. And once we get that signed off, we'll come to the county commission and present that. We have to have it signed for with the state first.
Tim, one question about
Yes.
those appraisals that we actually have to go out and look at.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an idea of what the percentage of those that we do desktop now versus those that we've got to go out on?
Good question. The photos we were using for our desktop appraisals were 4 years old, maybe 5. We recently just, and it's sad when you get excited over 2-year-old photos, but we just recently got an upload of new photos as of 2011. Now, again, you're looking at a 2011 photo that's 2 years old and not current, but as we speak, they're flying the county, and we should have 13 photos through another system we have in the office. They'll be current, and we'll be able to spend more time at our desk reviewing current photos. It makes sense financially not to burn the gas and the manpower in the field when you could be at your desk looking at a current photo. Now, there's some properties in this county, as you well know, that you can't go look at a desktop and see everything on the property just because of the terrain. But it's going to cut down. I don't have a percentage for you, but it's going to cut down on the amount of field work that we have to do. We can do a lot of review from the desk.
Will that happen in this current budget year?
It will have actually 13 photos. They're shooting for the 1st of May to have those. They're wrapping up the flying of the county now, and it's been funded and paid for, and we should have them the 1st of May. And that will help this year, and it'll help in the next reappraisal.
Good. It would be, if you, I don't know how you do it, but it would be good to know how much time you think that will save us in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Just for informational purpose. It's not an answer I'm sure you can give, tonight, but.
No, but I'll work on that for you, and we'll get you an answer there. The resolution in these photos is so much better than what we had. You'll be able to measure things, additions and garages and whatnot, actually from the picture. The resolution will be that close and that clear, so it's going to help tremendously.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions? Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, next, we have the county clerk. That'll be tab G.
The difference in employee insurance between estimated and new budget of $8,000. You know what that looks like? We've had a decrease, but we've budgeted the same amount as last year. What line are you on?
205.
Looks like to me the estimated FY 12-13 column is light, because if you look at the actual expenses for 12 and the budget for this year, it shouldn't change. We didn't have any rate changes.
Yeah, I didn't know if that, a reduction in staff would change that.
Reduction in staff, or if someone had been replaced in the startup period, there's at least a 90-day wait on before they're eligible for insurance. But I wouldn't think there'd been that much turnover.
We had one person move to probate, didn't we? Is that the person that went to probate, moved that to Steve Ogles?
So we probably just estimated that too low.
Yeah, it looks like November and December, we had a little variance there on the general ledger. I don't think the budget's wrong. I think it's just our estimate wasn't right.
Okay.
I'll check that.
Okay. Roy, what are the total fees generated? Total fees generated through the clerk's office?
We don't have that in front of me. It's, we take in over, I think it's around $13 million. And so I think we're getting that, it's a million, what is it, million, million three, million four. Something like that. It's close to that.
That sounds in the ballpark.
Okay. Thank you.
Roy, line item 399 is other contracted services, and I was just looking at the description. It says service such as record. What exactly does?
Well, we have a SUV that we deliver license plates to from our various offices. And occasionally, it's not the most reliable thing in the world, and occasionally we have to use the record service.
You need a surplus automobile from somewhere, I guess.
We do.
That is a symptom that is pretty pervasive throughout county government.
Would a AAA membership work?
Be less expensive. Looks like the estimated revenue that the clerk's office is forecasted for the current year is about $1,641,000. That's our portion. Again, that's just for the current year. That's the estimate for the current year.
Okay. That helps.
And Mike, to your question on account 205 employee insurance, it looks like 77,000 is a more accurate estimate for fiscal 12-13, not 71,258.
Okay.
Has anybody got any questions for Roy? Any questions, Jerome? Okay. Thank you, Roy.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 8 is elections, and it's under tab H. If anyone has questions on this line item, they can direct them towards Randy, please.
This is, in essence, a status quo budget with the exception of the additional request in keeping with what other office holders have proposed for increase in employees' wages.
Andy, on the clerical personnel, and we've got an estimated cost of $81,000, and we've requested budget for $91,000.
This is, I think, in case we have another election. There may be another election yet next year for one of the municipalities.
special election.
Yes. And we would have to gross up our budget, then in return, we would get compensated for that. Or at least a portion of that.
Is that the same issue under 193?
Yes.
What about on,
I will confirm that, but I'm almost sure that's what that is. I'm sorry, Steve.
what about on 399, where the other contracted services at $30,000?
They have to do updates on our voting machines, so maintenance updates is what they have to do, and it's my understanding what that cost is.
We weren't one of the 5, I don't even know if they voted that through, about the new voting machines that allow folks from different districts to vote in one central location. That was just talking about that in committee when we were in Nashville. There were going to be 5 test counties under consideration for a new voting machine that allowed folks from different districts to be able to vote outside of their district voting area. So you could go to any one of these machines and vote, even though that machine's not in your district. And that was just last week they were talking about that, and there were going to be 5 sample counties that tried that. I didn't know if we had heard anything about that.
I have not heard anything about it. Libby didn't mention it to me, but I don't think we're part of that.
I didn't know if there was a cost associated with that as well. Okay.
Is there any more questions over elections?
So it appears that maybe approximately $35,000 to $40,000 for a special call election.
That sounds very, very close. I will confirm that with Libby. She was just unable to be here tonight.
Okay, we'll move on to Veterans Office. Tab I.
salary increases as step increases as opposed to, is there a reason for that? What are these steps? This first time this has popped up to me.
Well, Nathan chooses to try to keep skill level or job descriptions consistent through his organization. Others, we just submitted what they submitted to us, to you. We've not altered these in any way. So, Nathan, you want to address
I can.
specifically yours?
Yes, on October 10th, my Veterans Committee met, and Walt Bolin, he's the Military Order of the Purple Heart representative, and he made a motion for the employees in the Veterans Affairs Office to put in for a one-step increase for our hard work, and that motion passed, and that's why I put that in our budget.
Well, how does this compare with other employees? I mean, why are these steps appear to be more than $1,000 across the board that I thought everybody was?
In the package, Steve, there's the comparable, like GIS mapping supervisor, senior accountant, chief deputy, business manager, senior, in like a circuit court clerk's office, senior office assistant, skill level 7, step 1, 2, 3, 4. Nathan's request really works out to put him in at the lowest skill level for department head. Public law for veteran service officer, I believe in 2008, says, I may have it with me.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the department head.
Right, but on in the packet there is from Human Resources.
So are they skill level 6 now, and you want to move them to a skill level 7, or are they moving within the skill level?
Yes, we're keeping the skill levels. Kerry Wallace is at 4, Donna Hatcher's at 7, and I'm at 11. We're just making a step increase. The skill level is staying the same.
So it's just an increase within the skill level?
Yes.
And I think your question is whether or not that comes to more than $1,000 per
Exactly.
employee.
It does, Steve.
It does.
That's my whole point.
It does.
Why are we treating some employees differently? I mean, we haven't done anything yet, but that's my question.
Well, we're just submitting to you what has been requested. We're not trying to pass any judgment one way or the other.
Back to Nathan, though, Public Acts 2004, senior accredited officer serving county veteran service may receive compensation commensurate to the compensation paid to heads of county government departments of comparable size in the county in which they're employed. When we interviewed and hired Nathan, the committee authorized $50,000. His predecessor was in the mid-60s. Upon his interview of the 3 candidates, made him an offer of $42,500. If I'm
43.5.
43.5, and he accepted it. I got a little complaints from the other members of the committee, which he answers to, but those members of the committee serve at the pleasure of the county commission. I think the period of time Nathan's been here, we've seen extraordinary growth in that department. This year alone was 43%, $9,300,000 in new claim benefit revenue to the county. So we're just now getting back to what?
For a total of $30 million.
Right, 30 million overall, but $9,300,000 in new
Yeah, and
dollars.
that's tax-free dollars that these veterans can spend however they want. So it does help our economy.
Right. So he's just getting close to what the committee authorized to pay when he was hired. But we thought it was really in the best interest of the county to make sure that we had the right person for the job, and without a doubt, I think we do.
Any more questions? Thank you, Nathan.
Thank you.
Move on to tab J.
It's kind of an editorial comment. I thought maybe we might, just for efficiency's sake, be able to find, reallocate the money for the beer board advertising for legal notices and on the budget committee and all that stuff, but we can't do that. It's got to be separate, so. No, I was not. Okay. So we may need to tweak this. We can go back through and pull all these and see if we need to.
Matter of fact, I think it's been three or 4 years.
If I could just draw your attention to account 51710, which is development. And again, this is kind of one of those legacy things, and I can't find where this started, but for whatever reason, all of our communication costs are in account 51900. But so when you look at 51900, you'll see that increase. But for example, development is wanting to move to the use of iPads so we can do field inspections on an iPad and not have to manually enter all that stuff. They can do it while they're in the field. Well, that costs would show up then under our general communication costs in account 51900, but I did want to point that out. But since we've been doing a lot of technology here recently, I just want to make you aware of that. That is one use of technology that we hope will make us much more efficient than what we are right now. The only thing we've not nailed down yet is a third party that would actually develop the forms that we would utilize on the iPad. We're getting mixed signals on the cost of that. Development services.
I assume we're looking at the mayor's office, right, now?
The other thing, if you flip to 51800 under county buildings, I've been rambling a lot about capital, and this is one of those areas that I want you to be aware of, that we need to start making some headway. And we've got proposed here a roof replacement for the health department, roof repairs, brick sealant on the Justice Center, and then the oldest part of the courthouse, what we're in right now, roof replacement on this portion of the building, and then some block and brick repair on the courthouse itself. And those would qualify as capital outlay. I don't know if any of you, I mean, these rains have really pointed out all of our leaks.
These aren't drip leaks, these are leaks where the water's running
Yeah, we've got some pretty interesting stuff. I didn't want to walk around over there, but it was interesting just to see how we're mitigating some of the leaks. There is a Fund 112 where we collect a fee for courthouse and jail maintenance, and it's behind tab 3, and that's where we'll be paying for these items. Again, I apologize for running you like a rabbit through all this, but while we're talking about different departments that work under the mayor's jurisdiction, the capital is overseen in these projects that I'm describing to you by our building maintenance department. $80,000 of that, I'm sorry, is under, Dana just corrected me, $80,000 of that's under the general county fund.
So general sessions court's your biggest revenue source,
Yes.
166,000.
Yes. It's not a real easy, y'all ask very simple questions, and unfortunately, there's not really simple ways to describe some of this, but you're right, that is the source of the funding for this Fund 112.
The largest.
But it is restricted. It can only be used on courthouse and jail maintenance. And again, as I told you a couple months ago, whether you fund some of this capital or not is not what is as important as it is for us to identify our capital needs and make you aware of them. But obviously, my priorities are foundations and roofs.
Well, like the mayor pointed out during the bomb threat, pointing out some brick and block
Yes.
problems, I don't believe they're going to be optional too much longer.
It's actually structural issues, it's not aesthetics, it's structural.
These estimates aren't hard bids, but they are by professionals who've actually come and evaluated them and provided us with the estimates. Obviously, if you were to approve them, they would go out to bid. But they're more than just a windshield estimate.
Is there, Randy, doesn't seem to be an across-the-board increase for staff and that looks consistent, as there has been in some other departments?
That's correct.
Okay.
There are some, though, within the budget because the numbers, it's a status quo budget, but
That is correct.
There's some change.
And that's the state law for the mayor and the finance director's positions.
Okay.
Yeah, 161's up 1,000. Like I say, it's still within the overall status quo budget.
Randy, on the retiree insurance? Has that, I was looking at actual 11 and 12 at 135,000, and then looks like we jumped almost 20,000 the next year, and then another 6,000 this year. Do we just have that many more people that are retiring?
Which department are you talking about? 51,900?
51,900.
We've actually gone back, my folks are a little tired of hearing me say this, but we got to go back to the building blocks and make sure we reconciled everything. So part of that is reconciling some of these accounts, and also we've actually had some more that have retired. So obviously the more you have retire, unless you have deaths and people aren't covered, then your cost is going to increase.
That's a pretty significant
It is.
increase over the.
I would attribute some of that more so to reconciliation than anything else.
Okay.
That's something that we've really tried to do, and it's taken some time to get our hands around it. But a lot of this stuff, whether you talk about split dollars, whether you talk about expenses that show up across multiple departments, we're trying to treat them all exactly the same way so that you don't look at an increase for the same expense at 5% in one department, 2% reduction in another department, 3% growth in another department when it's all the same. And we're cleaning up some of that stuff in the process.
Like, we actually have a spreadsheet that payroll has put together for 12, 13, and 13, 14 actual employees.
Talk into your mic, please. Talk into your mic.
Okay. Is it in here?
No,
No.
Okay.
I can email that.
Yeah, that'd be
though.
good to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Your copy of.
But that's part of that reconciliation I was talking about.
Okay.
I guess our 26,717 is not optional with Maryville since we're co-oping it with them on the GIS system.
We're at that maturation point now on GIS to where we need to start replacing things and pay our fair share of that.
We're also talking with them about getting it to extend on out and catch some more of the county schools too. And we're hoping that that's going to be part of this, so.
Yes, sir.
What, I can't hear you, Gerald.
Planning on the supervisor and assistant,
Yes?
that pretty well stay the same salary, no $1,000 increase.
If you decide, if the commission decides and we pass the budget with the $1,000 increase, they will get a $1,000 increase, but I'm not going to have to ask for any more money.
Randy and probation. Estimated probation officer expense at 167.2, then we're gonna go to 175. Is there a
What number are you on, Mike?
53,910?
Joni's got some opportunities that if we incur some additional costs, she can generate significant revenue return on those, and that's what's being proposed here. Is that?
Good evening. How are you? Do you want me to explain a little bit?
Please,
Okay.
John.
I'm asking for $13,001, and everything that I'm wanting to increase on would could potentially give us a lot of extra revenue. I'm wanting to increase the drug screen line item, and that if I could, I can get drug screens. If I increased what I could get 333 drug screens and then have additional money to pay for our contested drug screens. The charge for the drug screens are $20 per probationer when they get drug screened, and the cost to us are $450 a piece. And then we, if they contest them, then we send them off and have that cost as well. But we could generate, if we did 333 drug screens, we could generate $6,660. I'm also wanting to increase a line item that would allow me to have more batterers intervention program money to generate. Right now, we only have one class. Batterers intervention was just created back in November. It's a very new class that it's a 24-week session, and you have 16 domestic violence offenders that are placed in through the court to go through this program. The cost to the offender is $500 for this 24-week period. Currently, right now, we just have one class going since November, and up until to date, just with the one class already, we have generated $4,250, and that's just with the one class going. I would like to add 3 additional classes throughout the year, so we would have 4 going throughout the whole year, and that would service. And we're already having waiting list. The courts have assigned people, and with just the one class, we can't even. We could have the potential to have a lot more people in the class. Plus, it serves the citizens better because you're helping these offenders with their domestic violence issues. So also, I would like to increase in the driving school to provide more money for us to spend on the driving school booklets. You have to have a driving school manual for every class we have for each participant. I'd like to increase that, which would add about 4 to 6 more classes, and we generally have about 25 people in each class. The classes are $75 a piece. And if we have 52 classes throughout the year, and I have them filled up for 25 participants at each one, we would generate an estimation of $97,500. And the cost to us would be about $5,000 something for the manuals. So we would be generating a significant amount of money. To date, with the driving schools that we've had up until today, we have made $45,166 in driving school alone. So that would increase up to $97,500 if I was able to fill the classes, and I have no doubt that I would. We've had to send people to Knox County schools before because we just didn't have enough money to pay for the manuals to have the classes. I would also, and all of this I can generate more with just the $13,001. Would also like to add 1 extra DUI school per year. We offer the DUI schools. It's contracted out through Knox County Sheriff's Office. They teach the class, but we have to turn a lot of people away to Knox County as well because we only have one once every other month right now. I would like to at least add 1, and if we added 1 class and filled it with 25, and we normally have between 25 to 30, we would make an extra $3,750. So
How do we collect those fees on the front end?
Yes. The DUI schools and driving schools, they must have their money order before they ever even take the class. So the day of the class, we'll turn them away if they do not pay that day. So the drug screens, it will be added on to their probation fees, and so they have to pay it by the time their probation ends. So that's not paid in advance. And the batterers intervention program, it's also, they have to pay before they take the class as well. So everything but the drug screens are paid up front. So.
How many active cases, how many people are on probation at this time, Blount County, roughly?
Currently, I checked it on Friday, and there was there was 1,923 probationers, and it's a lot of people, and that's not including their driving school people, and that's just active probationers. So we also service pretrial release people who are waiting sentences or waiting trials and everything too. So, but there's a lot of probationers.
Joni, do you have an idea as of this month how much revenue you've generated this year in probation?
Yeah. As of 2 hours ago, we have deposited $427,661.61. And that's with every probation fees, driving schools, DUI schools, batterers interventions, drug screens, and everything. That's across the board, exactly how much we have deposited. And we've still got 3.5 months left.
And with the increases you've asked for, though, you're looking at, that's adding another $100,000 to your revenue, correct?
Yes,
roughly.
Roughly, yes, absolutely. I roughly estimated it as, give or take, $136,160, and that's total in the perfect world, if I got exactly what I wanted, but obviously it could go either way. But that's how much I would think that it would bring in. So, and I'm just asking the $13,000, so.
$10 return on every dollar spent.
Pretty much, yes. That's what I hope.
Pretty good rate of return.
That's my vision anyway, and so
that's
what
all
I'm
right.
aiming for.
If you get half of that, you're doing pretty good.
Absolutely, that's what I hope. So.
And there's no other cost in generating that money? I mean, we don't have to pay additional to Knox County for teaching the DUI school?
DUI school, they get half of what we get. So, which right now we've brought in $18,450. So we would have gotten $9,225 out of that. But the driving school, we pay our instructor, which is our probation officers. We've got 5 out of our 8 employees that are trained. We used to contract that out. But our employees are paid $150 for the class, the 4-hour session, and only one of them teaches it. But what I'm wanting to add is I'm wanting to also add a daytime class where it's through their regular hours, so it's not an extra expense to us. So that's what I'm planning on. And right now, our batterers intervention, we've made the $4,250 flat out because they're doing it during the work hours, so I'm not paying them an additional fee. Now, I do want to add an extra class in the evening to get the participants in the evening, and I would have to pay the probation officer that for their additional, but it would probably just be $75, I think, would be a good price for the hour-and-a-half class. So
what does that do to our 1-to-10 ratio?
It would cost a total of like $7,800 total just to pay for the instructors, from what I've looked into. So still, our return is huge.
6.5 to 1.
Okay. There's been a lot going on, and Joni's done a great job of putting a whole lot together in a short period of time, but our goal is that we don't have to contract with anyone for any of those services. We can put those classes on here and get 100% of the return on the cost, and that's what our intentions are.
Yeah, eventually my plan is to hopefully do our DUI school, get our people trained to do it, and then that way there's not a cost, but we've had lots going on. And so I really wanted, I was trying to do it this year, but, so, we'll get there.
Good job.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joni.
Thank you, guys.
On other contracted services.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
On 399, the estimated expenses for other contracted services versus the budgeted request.
Which department are you on?
Animal control.
Animal control,
I'm sorry.
Say 55.
55,120.
You said, okay.
What is that
I'm sorry.
difference?
Which department, 51 what?
Animal control, 55, 120.
55,120?
I'm sorry.
Got 399.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the vet services.
Okay.
Yes.
Spray neuter.
That 35,000 more than what we're gonna spend this year?
The volumes are up.
That estimated, Mike, is not right. It's not right. The volume's up and we're,
I think that's another one on fiscal 13. We're low on that estimate because I just got a
Absolutely.
report today about how the volumes were up, so I'll check on that one as well. 399 for the current year.
And the other reason I asked that, if you look at actual expense in 12, at 29,000.
That's probably.
we didn't have the surgery. We didn't have the surgery center then.
Okay.
Yeah. Before we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something this doesn't show that I just want to make you aware of. If you'd look back into the 2010 and 2009, this budget would have been at $440,000. So we're still $100,000 less, even running the animal center, than what we were in 2009.
And a lot of that we can credit to private donations.
Yes.
That's great.
Is that 55,590, is that where the juveniles are, for want of a better term, sentenced, I guess, to some kind of treatment or?
Yes.
Compelled to treatment?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't have my mic on. Yes, you are correct.
On 58,500, I'm seeing that Tennessee rehab, is that not what we discussed with the school department?
That's the reason it's falling under us now. The schools gave it up was it last year?
Yes.
The schools
Okay.
gave it up and we absorbed it
Actually, this current year.
under
This
the
current year.
mayor's office.
Yeah, I remembered that discussion. But is this not one where they bill us in arrears all the time?
Bill us quarterly.
But for previous work, right? So this is just a big guesstimate then, right?
No, it's a contracted service based on caseload.
We have no idea how much caseload there is, do we?
There's not a great deal of variance in the caseload. Is that fair, Deborah? The caseload does not vary that much, but it is predicated.
Status quo budget. What have only made me happier is if you'd have cut, because the citizens sure don't want to see a tax increase this year. Also, I heard some of the departments talking about salary increases for the employees. And I'd just like to tell you something like that's going on in the private sector. Some people at the airport just recently took a 7% decrease so that they wouldn't have layoffs. Everyone agreed to do that. So that's what we're seeing out in the real world out here. But the reason I really came up here is because of a comment that Commissioner Moon made tonight, and it was about the Heritage Center. And I agree with you that when we entered in this contract to build a Heritage Center, we had a contract that said the local government would be responsible for the maintenance of the project. Then there was an assignment, and this assignment was entered into between Blount County and the Great Smoky Mountain Heritage Center. And this was when the work was to be completed. It stated, the acceptance of the assignment. Assignee, who is the Heritage Center, wait a minute, I read the wrong part. Assignee assumes covenants and agrees to perform all assigner's remaining obligations under the contract. By this execution, assignee agrees to be solely responsible for and pay for all costs associated with the maintenance and operation of the Heritage Museum and Cherokee Interpretive Center, including maintenance and operation of all electrically operated devices and so on. So apparently they took over this responsibility as a nonprofit. The reason that I see that we've been giving them at one point $50,000 and then we cut it to $40,000. And I'd say if this was mandated to begin with, the director of the Heritage Center wouldn't have kept coming forward asking each budget. He'd have said, it's mandated, you have to do it. But every time he would come and ask. There was a resolution by two commissioners at the time, and some of you will probably remember, Otto Slater and Keith Brock. They wrote a resolution that said, whereas the Blount County Heritage Center will provide educational opportunities for all students within Blount County, and whereas the Blount County Heritage Center is in need of financial support from Blount County government, whereas the Blount County Commission is appropriating authority for Blount County government, now therefore be it resolved that there is hereby appropriated $50,000 which shall be subject to annual appropriation by Blount County. This was a resolution. I think we could have a resolution now saying that this nonprofit, after all these years, should be self-sustaining and on their own 2 feet. What bothers me is that we have taken money away from nonprofits such as the Community Action Agency, who actually helps the seniors in our community. And yet this is a tourist center, and we feel obligated to continue to give to one nonprofit. We're showing special treatment. Not only that, the taxpayers are paying for them, for this budget, this money we're giving to them in their budget. And yet, as a taxpayer, if you go to the Heritage Center, you're charged admission, which means, to me, that's like double taxation. I think this should be changed. I've been arguing this for years. People on the last commission, many agreed with me that to begin with, this nonprofit should never have been taken out as a separate line item from all the other nonprofits. They should have continually been cut back just like every other one. So I hope that you will consider this. I have the paperwork here. This was a resolution. This was not mandated from the state. It was 2 of our commissioners. Thank you.
Anyone else? This time, I would like to say that I hope everybody is holding Judge Hedrick and his family in their heart and prayers. He'd lost his mother this week, and they are receiving friends tonight, and the funeral services are tonight. And I'm sorry that we weren't able to attend, but